and handsome, with a ready smile and eyes that reflect the good heart that beats inside him. A Bollywood actor, theater actor, a star, and socially conscious. Sorry, ladies, he's married. I am referring to, you probably have guessed it, Kunal Kapoor. Kunal is going to be our special guest today in this conversation, and it's a deep privilege and honor for Fiki to host him on this platform of medical value tourism. Because this man from Amritsari descent is a Mumbaiker at heart, that's where he lives and works. But really, whilst his professional satisfaction probably comes out of theater, his monetary satisfaction out of films, but his personal satisfaction, as we'll soon find out, my guess is, comes out of doing the work that he's doing in the social sector through his crowdfunding platform, Keto. So, welcome, Kunal, to this, shall I call it show? It's yours.
Well, thank you so much. That's such a kind introduction. Thank you so much.
My whole point of giving a long introduction was that from henceforth, I'm going to let you do the talking. It's like, you delivering dialogues and we being the silent spectators. I'll try to prompt you wherever possible. But just tell us first a little bit about yourself, your family. How did you come to Bombay? How did you settle down here? And then we'll come to your work, the respective areas, because you are a multifaceted personality. And we need to know a lot more about you before we come to the work part.
Well, so I actually grew up in Bombay. I was actually born and brought up in Bombay. My family is originally from Punjab. My dad and mom, they're both from Punjab, and they came into Bombay way before I was born. And I went to school, college, worked here in Bombay. So Bombay really has been my home. But I've spent a lot of time growing up in Delhi as well, because my entire extended family was in Delhi and in Amritsar, because we have a lot of family there as well. So summers and winters were Delhi and Amritsar. And often people ask me whether I'm from Delhi, and I tell them that, why would you ask me that? And they say, because there's a lot of Delhi in you. And especially how you speak Hindi is not the way people from Mumbai speak Hindi. And I think that has to do with the fact that I have such a large extended family, big fat Punjabi family, uh, over 35 cousins. And yeah, and I've spent so much time growing up in Punjab and in Delhi.
So, so you still are used to chole bhature rather than pav bhaji.
I think I find myself in the best of both worlds, because I'm good with chole bhature and pav bhaji.
Okay. So, Kunal, you worked under the legendary Barry John, learnt your theater through him. Then you worked with the equally talented and respected Nasiruddin Shah Saab. Your career, when we look at it, uh, you came into public limelight like a lot of other people do, not through theater, but through films. But I'm sure that you would have been recognized for your film work prior to that by someone who watched you in theater.
Well, I actually started off as an assistant director. I started off as a production assistant in advertising first. And after that, I was an assistant director on a film called Lux, which was with Rakesh Mehra. It was his first film, and it was with Mr. Bachchan and Manoj Bajpayee. And I remember for an actor, I was doing it. Each time somebody had to rehearse the lines with an actor, I was doing it. If a junior artist didn't turn up, I would go and take the junior artist's place. So one day Rakesh called me and he said, look, dude, I think you enjoy being in front of the camera more than you do. I was like, how do I become an actor? And he said, you're going to Delhi, please go meet Mr. Barry John. He's the one that's taught me everything that I know. And I went and met him. And I ended up meeting him for one day and staying for 6 months. I called home and I said, I'll come back 6 months later. And they said, but you went for a day. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to come back 6 months later. I'm going to work on my acting in Delhi. And that's how it began.
So Kunal, I don't know why, but we are losing your audio a little bit. I'm really sorry, but I think we've lost your audio a little bit, Kunal. Could you just have a look at your audio?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be fine here.
Yeah, now you're back much better. But could you just repeat the last part, how you stayed on for 6 months?
Yeah, so I had actually gone to Delhi for the premiere of Ux, which was a movie I had worked on as an assistant. And I was speaking to Manoj on the flight, Bajpai, and I was like, how do I become an actor? And he said that you should go meet Barry John. And I went and met him, and he said, but you're going to have to stay back in Delhi. So I called home and I said, I'm coming back 6 months later. And my mother, who by then was used to this, said, fine. She said, what are you doing in Delhi for 6 months? I said, I'm going to be an actor. And that's how it began, actually.
Oh, great. So from the perspective of films, moving from theater to films,
Right.
how did you take that leap? Because from the perspective of theater, it's a very one-to-one conversation, and when you're in front of a camera, it's an altogether different thing. Of course,
Correct.
and I honestly meant it. I'm no great buff of modern movies. My time was much earlier. I'm still a Madhubala and a Nutan fan. But the fact of the matter is, we look at you in Rang De Basanti, and there's something about your face that people like. So,
Right.
was that what your wife saw too, or?
I'm assuming. I'm hoping just more than my face. I hope it was more than just likability in my face. Yeah.
No, but honestly, to add to your height, which a lot of people don't know, but you're more than 6 foot tall, and the important thing is that your eyes tell really a long story. I mean, I'm no shyer, but you have a personality that is immediately likable. Does that help you in your professional work for Keto? I'm jumping,
Well,
but
I think, a friend of mine put it really nicely. He said that we were talking about keto and startups and, actors being involved in something like keto. And he said, building a startup is like bodybuilding. It's a lot of hard work. You've got to take care of your diet. You have to go to the gym every day, sleep on time. So there's a lot of work that goes into bodybuilding and goes into building a startup. But having a founder that is an actor is like bodybuilding with steroids. It's the same amount of hard work, but the process just becomes faster and easier.
so
So
I'm sorry that I jumped ahead, but films are like that. You keep jumping from Purane Vakton Ki Yaad to now. So let's come back to how you got into this crowdfunding platform creation called Keto, and why name it Keto?
So firstly, keto is an abbreviation for Key to Tomorrow, uh, because we
Key
felt
to
that
tomorrow.
right.
To tomorrow. Great.
Because we felt that capital was concentrated in the hands of very few people, and as a result of that, not everybody had access to capital. And this could be capital for social needs. This could be capital for you becoming an entrepreneur. This could be capital for your medical needs. And we felt like if there was a way of connecting people that could help to people that need helping, it could become something that was very powerful. So the idea was to use technology, which I was obsessed with, to build a bridge between people that can help and people that need helping. And that's how Keto was born. It actually started off because I was working in the social space with a number of NGOs, and I felt that they had a lot of challenges. Firstly, the cost of fundraising was very high. Secondly, it was a big challenge for them to reach out to new donors. And thirdly, I just felt like the whole social space in this country was very serious and had a lot of gravity attached to it, which is why a lot of young people stayed away from it. Whereas when I looked at the social space out west, I saw a lot of actors involved. People were having garage sales, baking cakes, running marathons. And I felt like that's a culture we needed to bring to India if we wanted to get young people involved. So that's how Keto was born. The idea was that we spend so much time on our smartphones and our computers. If you could use that time, take a few minutes to help somebody or help a cause that was important to you, it could become something that was really important.
So, did your work with Save the Children and with Akshara, etc., help you in preparing you for what you were getting into?
It did because, when Keto started off, we were primarily working only with NGOs. Now we work a lot with individuals as well. And I think I had a lot of insights into how the NGOs work and what their challenges were. Uh, the big NGOs obviously were well funded, but then there was, the smaller NGOs, the NGOs in the middle, which were doing some amazing work but didn't have enough funding. And at the same time, I came across so many friends of mine that really wanted to help. They were like, I wish I could help this child, or I wish I could help that NGO, but were never quite sure how to do it. They were never quite sure whether the money was going to the right place or not. And the idea was to just build something that was fun and engaging, but something that was transparent and something that you knew that the money would go to the right place. So it sort of course, helped, having worked with the NGOs. But I think just having an overall perspective of the fact that these people somehow needed to come together, I think was very important to me.
No, I think that's a very valid point because I know people, and I personally also felt the same thing. That how do I know whether this is going into the right place? So I've tried to support some NGOs, and I wasn't very sure whether I'm doing the right thing or not. So how do you make sure in Keto that it is a transparent process?
So, well, most of the NGOs, almost every NGO that's on Keto, first of all, has to submit all their paperwork and stuff to make sure that they're verified, that all the documents are in place, that they're doing the right sort of work. I mean, we have over, I think now 300,000 NGOs in India. But very few of them are on Keto now because we have to make sure that all the documentation and verification is in place. So that is something that we do. The other thing that we've been doing with the NGOs is to constantly make sure that they're providing updates. We have a feature on Keto where an NGO can put up an update, and it goes to all the people that have donated, so that they know where the money is gone, what's going on with that. And like I said, we're also working very closely with individuals now. A lot of medical cases that are funded on Keto every day. Children fighting cancer, somebody needs a surgery, a heart transplant, liver transplant. And in that case, what happens is the money, the paperwork comes in from the hospital, and the money goes directly to the hospital. So it's not like somebody's raising money for one thing and it's being used for something else. The other thing that we also do, which is a sort of self-verification when it comes to crowdfunding, is that we insist that the people first reach out to their own network of friends and family. When you're crowdfunding, because it's very unlikely that they would not know whether you need this money for the right reason or not. It's very unlikely that I would reach out to my friends and family and say, look, I'm sick and I need money and I'm not sick. And they wouldn't know and they would donate to that. So it's a sort of self-verification that happens on a platform like Keto.
So Kunal, you raised another very important part of the equation in donation and receipt. The point is
Right.
that in India, you don't really have a real culture of philanthropy. Let's say that you have in the United States, where uh, someone as big as Bill Gates would say, okay, this much is enough, and the rest is for charity, etc., etc. And you have
Right.
hundreds of cases like that. In India, we tend to be a little selective, let me say, in where we want to give it, maybe for the creation of a temple, for the creation of a mosque, or the creation of a church, or it may be so personal tragedies, like, for example, COVID. They must be affecting your line of work in two ways. One, that as a professional, you must be suffering. along with the others because you can't get to work. And as uh, Keto, you might be getting far many more calls, businesses from healthcare needs, etc. So it's a dichotomy that must be literally tearing you apart. That you yourself can't work in a film and a theater, and at the Keto level, you are inundated with calls. So how do you handle it?
Well, you put it very interestingly, but I never really thought of it like that. Uh, what I found really fascinating uh, during the pandemic, and I think that's the only good thing that came out of it for me, was the amount of people that want to come forward and help. Uh, I've had so many friends and so many people that have never even donated a single rupee starting fundraisers because they want to help an animal on the road or they want to help migrant workers. I had a friend of mine whose daughter was watching television with him, and the migrant crisis was going on, and she's 10 years old. And she said, "Look, Dad, I don't want to just sit and watch. What's the point of just watching TV? I want to do something." So he called me up and she started a campaign on keto. And she ended up raising 14 lakhs to send migrant workers home. So you have a 10-year-old child that wants to come forward and make a difference and say that, look, I don't want to just sit and watch television. I want to do something. And that's the sort of response I've seen all around is just a need to contribute and be kind. And I think all these people, not just me, all these people were in a similar situation where they weren't working at that point of time. Everyone's businesses were shut. It was difficult to work, but everybody wanted to fill that up with the contribution, that time to make a difference. And that for me was something that I thought was that I hope continues even after the pandemic is over. This need to contribute and make a difference.
From the perspective of age, what is the age group that you find you are most comfortable working with, or what is the age group? Sorry, I should you know, put it in different words. My age group people uh, are probably past their prime, so they only want to do something for help age and age-related things, or old age homes, etc., or something like that. But the younger generation, as you just gave an example of a 10-year-old child coming out,
Yeah.
is very differently built, very, very differently wired up here. And do you find that the, this is a mistaken notion that a lot of elders have, that the younger generation is gone to dogs and this, that, and the other? I find interacting with the youngsters far more easier today than was the case in our time when it was difficult to communicate. So, has that part been bridged, do you think, by your organization focusing on something online? Because every kid is online these days.
Yeah.
Social consciousness through the medium of, or through the social media, may be a boon rather than parents telling their children TV mat kholna, computer pe mat raho, cell phone chhod do. That kind of thing. You are pointing out that there are advantages to it. So is that your experience that more younger people are coming forth to support you? Is there an age profile you have that you could describe?
Well, most of the people that contribute are between 18 and 45. That's the highest amount of contribution that comes in. But what I found is that, like you're saying, is that I find that the generation after me, actually, much younger than me as well, 15, 16, 17, I look at my nephew and my nieces, are very, very socially responsible. Even when they are talking about business and work, they're talking about social responsibility that's tied into that business and work. And I find that amazing because I see kids that are 14, 15 talking about the environment. Uh, Even me, I mean, 15, 20 years back, when I was in school and stuff, I was not talking about the environment as much. It was not something that was so important. It wasn't such an important part of my social responsibility. Now I find like the kids that are in school and just going to college right now, they're amazing. They really sort of uh, they feel like it's not only about generating money and greed and stuff. It's also about having some sort of social responsibility. And I find that I see that very often with the kids around me as well.
So I'm not going to be very popular, Kunal. I'm not talking about your films, but the fact of the matter is that these are days where I, as a doctor and as a healthcare professional, I find myself very stymied by the fact that we are faced with a situation of sometimes lack of funds stopping a particular surgery from being
Yeah.
done. And so you must have had plenty of examples where your organization has gone ahead and helped people, let's say needed, like you mentioned, a transplant surgery or a heart surgery, or surgeries which are, uh, consume a lot of money. Even from the middle class, sometimes it becomes difficult for them to afford. So could you
Yeah.
give some idea as to how your organization is helping those in medical needs?
Well, but in fact, it's strange that you say that because we were just at a hospital today, and they were telling me that 30 to 35% of their BMT cases, which is bone marrow transplants, now happen because of crowdfunding, and would have been very difficult and challenging to fund if it wasn't for crowdfunding. And so all the hospitals that we speak to now tell us that crowdfunding is, I mean, people that have been in the medical field for a long time have said that for in the last 2 3 years, crowdfunding is really changing the industry, because earlier what used to happen is that a lot of people, when they didn't have funds, either couldn't afford the surgery and just went away, or they would start selling their land, they would sell property, they would sort of sell gold, take a loan which they then eventually can't pay, which pushes them into poverty even more. uh, Here on Keto, every day we see people from across the world come together to help someone that they don't know, and I find that really amazing. I mean, we keep talking about how the world is a bad place, but on Keto we see so much goodness. We see people from America and Germany and Europe and Australia and Asia, and just so many people from the world coming together to help a child in India who wants to get a bone marrow transplant or get, treated for cancer. And for me, that's an indicator of the good that's there. And I think for us, what I've always believed is that Keto is just a facilitator of that good. We're just, providing an avenue, because like we were talking about the 10-year-old girl, if this had happened, say, 6 years back, she would have wanted to make a difference, but she would have not been able to, because there was no avenue available for her to do. And I think we've just facilitated and provided the avenue. But there's so much goodness, and we're just the avenue for that goodness.
So, are you getting a lot of calls for medical help? How would you kind of give a percentage to how many people approach you for medical help, and what percentage would be from India and what percentage from outside, if that is available, that kind of data?
Sure, sure. So 95% of our cases now are medical cases. A lot of them are cancer cases and cases for surgeries. Uh, Medical really is our focus now. And as far as donations go, I mean, about almost 35% of the donations come from across the world as well, for these cases, for these individual cases, and children that want to be need a surgery, or someone that's fighting cancer. Uh, what I've realized is that the most important thing is the story. You know, that's the thing that touches us the most, and a story is a universal thing, and because it's so universal, it touches people equally across the world. So medical is actually our main focus, because what's happened with medical is that, firstly, we live in a country which is so underfunded when it comes to medical needs. I was reading a paper which said that about 22 million people have been pushed into poverty because they couldn't pay their medical bills. That's where we are. And uh, we live in a world where technology is changing the medical field. You have robotic surgeries and you have nanoparticles in the blood, but you still have such a large population that can't even afford basic medical care. So you might have all this fancy technology, but you don't have people that can afford it. And what we found is that medical actually gets funded so much is because the need is urgent. it's always a matter of life and death. Uh, if somebody doesn't get a surgery right now, they will probably die. If a child doesn't get a surgery right now, they won't make it. Which is why that story touches so many people and reaches out to so many people and people want to help. I'm a creative person, but even if if a movie doesn't get made, the world's not going to change, or it's not going to be a matter of life and death. But if a child dies because they can't afford surgery, I think that would be very, very painful.
So Kunal, from this perspective, you said that it's the story that is important. So, isn't it possible that a good storyteller will create a fictional story to get funding? Have you had cases where you found that you were taken for a ride?
Well, fortunately not, because like I said, we actually work directly with the hospitals. So what usually happens in most cases is that the hospital calls us and says that, look, there's this child that's come in, and the surgery is going to cost 20 lakhs, but they have only 2 lakh rupees right now. So why don't you come in and see if you can do something? And then, if that is the case, uh, then you have the CM's fund and you have, HNIs that want to help out. So they might give you another 3-4 lakhs, but there's still a shortfall of about 16 lakhs, right? So that's when we start a campaign for that person, and we try and raise that money, and whatever money gets raised actually goes to the hospital. So fortunately enough, we haven't found ourselves in a situation where we've been taken for a ride by a good storyteller.
So your professional colleagues haven't come in as yet. The story writers. So Kunal, I work in a institution which does primarily cardiac work in Delhi,
Right.
and uh, one peculiarity which I want to bring to your attention, and perhaps this may be a focus for you to think about, is that a lot of people, like you mentioned, they sell their lands, they sell their belongings, which is absolutely true, because in India, people will insure their car and their motorcycle, but won't insure themselves, the rider.
Right. Right.
So health insurance is something that perhaps your organization could promote, that actively people should get insured so that they don't get into the bankruptcy. 62% of bankruptcies, it is estimated by one estimate, occur because of medical reasons. And,
Right.
and
Right.
that's partially because of the fact that people trust the private more than the public. And the long line of waiting for public, as you rightly pointed out, deters them from seeking a surgery because you'll probably get a date 1 year later when it's too late. So,
Yeah.
one element that we found very clearly was that for a pediatric cardiac procedure, if it was for a male child, they'll somehow sell the land and come, but for a female child, they won't.
Yeah.
So, have you kind of made a special provision which focuses on the girl child?
Well, unfortunately, that's not something that we do, because, like I said, our attempt is to just connect people. We don't want to connect people on the basis of, let's give a little more preference because girls, children don't get preference. For us, it's just about connecting the right people together. And in fact, what you're saying is so true, because the hospital that we met today said that they had a child that came in 3 weeks back, and the child needed a liver transplant, and the mother was willing to give a part of her liver, and the family said it's okay, she's a girl, why do you want to give her your a part of your liver and put your life in peril, or why do you want to trouble yourself? And she fought with the family, and she came and she did it, but the family didn't turn up because they said that, why are we spending so much money on this girl? So you're right, and it is something that is incredibly heartbreaking, and um, it was we hear this all the time, but every time you hear it, it really sort of hurts you and shocks you. But we don't make any sort of differentiation. We just uh, are trying to be that platform that just connects people that can help to people that need helping.
So you're doing a wonderful work, Kunal. Let me congratulate you straight away. But I was just wondering whether through this opportunity that you have and the space that you occupy, the position within that space that your organization occupies, could you do some messaging? And the messaging that I was referring to was one, health insurance promotion, and the second,
Right.
girl child promotion, for the simple reason that today you walk in any sphere of life, you don't find the girl anywhere inferior to the boy. And there is no reason
Absolutely.
why that girl should not deserve a chance or equal
Absolutely.
chance to
Absolutely.
get the surgery of her choice. From the perspective of popularization of your medium, that is keto, you mentioned that it's like bodybuilding, so you took time to build your organization. Now that it has been built, do you get patients from the international field wanting to come to India? Because India is one of the top 5 countries for medical tourism,
Right.
and our doctors are second to none, and we offer
Absolutely.
prices that are far better than anywhere else, and our results are equally good. So you must
Right.
be getting a lot of international patients wanting to come, but having some kind of a, uh, shall we say, the same situation as not enough money. So
Right.
do you
Right.
help out international patients as
Yes,
well?
we've been helping out international patients as well. In fact, we've had a lot of patients coming in from the Philippines. We've had patients coming in from Yemen, from Africa, that have crowdfunded, and like I said, the money has gone to the hospital, and their treatment has been taken care of. In fact, we just recently had this one boy that came in from the Philippines, and I think about 19 lakhs was raised for his liver transplant. Uh, so yeah, we have actually a lot of international patients that are showing interest, and like I said, at the end of the day, uh, like you've been saying, is that India is the place for medical tourism because, firstly, is the skill levels of our medical doctors. Secondly, is the infrastructure. Third is I find that India is very sort of up to date and sometimes even ahead of the curve when it comes to medical technology and changing medical technology. And fourth is of course the affordability. So we find that there's a lot of people that are obviously looking to come here, and amongst them are people that can't afford it and have reached out to us and said that, or the hospital has reached out to us and said that, look, there's this patient that wants to come in from the Philippines but can't afford it. Is there something that you can do for them?
So, from the perspective of the international patients, is there any problem in you raising the funds from domestic sources, or
No,
do
there
you
isn't
get
because, like I said, the money is going to the hospital.
right? But
So,
do the people who donate ask you
right.
where the money is going?
No, so what we usually do is how it works is when you set up a campaign page on Keto, first you get all the medical certificates from the doctor. So all the documentation that the hospital has done, including the letter that the doctor gives out or the hospital gives out and says that, look, this is what the patient needs money for. So all the documentation is put out on the platform along with the campaign as well. So it's very, very transparent, and it's very easy for anyone that wants to sort of contribute, understand what that is, to come to that particular person's page and see what's going on there.
So, from the perspective of, sorry, you might have lost my video. There's something wrong with the uh, with that. So I'll try to rejoin you, but hopefully you can hear my
No,
voice.
no, I can see you. I can see you.
You can. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can't see you suddenly because it's disappeared. Uh, but you're okay. From the perspective of differentiation, how would you say that your organization, out of all the crowdfunding platforms that are is different? One that you pointed out is that 95% of your work is now related to medical. Are
Right.
there any other points that differentiate you from the, suddenly we've got this spate of crowdfunding platforms.
Right, right. I think, there's two things that are very important when you're on a platform like ours. One, I think actually three things. One would be the ease of interacting. Secondly, would be the trust factor, which we've built, I think, over the last now 10 years now. And the third is the transparency. I think those are things that we specifically focus on and make sure that it's very easy to sort of transact. It's very, very transparent. Am I losing you? Sorry.
Yes, now I can see you.
Yeah, it's that is very easy to transact. It's very transparent, and of course, there's a trust that we built over the last couple of years, 8, 9 years, 9 years now. Uh, you know that if it's on keto, then there's a very, very high chance that this is a good campaign and it's been verified and it's going to the right place. So I think that is really important. The other thing that we've been doing is that we've been uh, from the beginning, we've had to educate people, because when we entered the space, uh, nobody really understood what crowdfunding was, not even the NGOs, not the individuals. So we had to educate the NGOs, which were the seller in this case, and the individuals that were contributing, which were the buyer in this case. And we had to build a whole new market. Uh, and over the years, there are learnings attached to that, which we now apply to what we do. So we have people that are assigned to every case to make sure that the learnings that we've learned over the last 9 years can be applied to every campaign and makes it much easier for the campaigner to raise that money. So that is something that we pay a lot of attention to, is how do we make it easy for the campaigner? How do we bring in all the learnings that we've had? And how do we uh, apply those learnings so that the money can be generated faster and can reach out to more people?
From a psychology point of view, do you find it easy now or easier as you've gone along to get people to support these causes other than for what I've realized as a doctor is when you ask for money from for a child's surgery or for something to do with heart or cancer, it's easy. But if I ask money for, let's say, cochlear implant for a deaf child, far more difficult to raise.
Sure. I mean, of course, there are some cases and some campaigns that generate funds much faster than the others. Like you said, pediatric or a child's case where a child needs a surgery is far easier to sort of generate funds as opposed to somebody that needs a ear implant. That might be something that's far more difficult. But what I found, which is very interesting, is that earlier when we started off, there was a lot of sort of shame attached, embarrassment attached actually to asking people for money, because there were actually some people who said it's okay, we'll sell our property, but we don't want to ask. Uh, we'd rather take a loan. We'll find a way of paying back that loan, but we don't want to ask somebody for money. And I found that that's changed a lot over the last couple of years. And the reason for that is two, I think. One is that you see people just like yourself, uh, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Instagram, raising money. You see people that are from your strata of society. You see people that may have been as educated as you are, that are in need of money and are raising money. So when you find yourself in that situation, I think you feel like if it's been done by somebody else, why should I feel that shame or embarrassment? The other thing that we found is that a lot of people that have donated on the platform have eventually gone and started a campaign on the platform for themselves or somebody else when they're in need. Uh,
Really?
because when you come forward and donate to somebody's campaign, you feel like if I can donate to somebody's campaign, then when I'm in need, why should I be embarrassed to ask somebody else for help? And I think, I mean, there still is, of course, we live in a society where there's a lot of shame in asking and stuff. But I feel like there is a shift. I see a shift now in the sort of people that come and start campaigns on the platform, and also a shift in how embarrassed they are, or how much of shame they feel when we're starting a campaign. I think that's become far lesser.
From the perspective of timing, do you have this pressure on you put by the recipients of the aid that I need it this fast? And do you have a kind of a differential scale on which you measure which patient?
Yeah, there is. I mean, so usually what happens is a lot of cases that are on keto are very urgent cases. Somebody needs a surgery in 2 weeks. Someone needs a cancer treatment in the next 2 months. So almost every campaign is time bound, and usually the more urgent the need, we see that more people come forward and contribute and donate. Uh, so that, of course, is a very, very important part of crowdfunding. Is that most of the needs are very urgent needs, and there's always a time limit. I mean, if you had a case where somebody needed money a year and a half later, uh, the chances of that being funded would be very, very low, because I think in people's minds it would be that this money is needed a year and a half later. We'll do it much later. But if you say that the child needs a surgery in the next 3 weeks, uh, the amount of people that will come forward and will be willing to contribute will be much higher. So there's always an urgency. It's always time bound, and uh, what we've been attempting to do is work much closely with the hospital so that there's no time lost in between somebody needing money and the campaign being started. Because like I'm saying, sometimes you need the money in 3 weeks because the surgery has to happen urgently. So we don't want to lose out on that time. So we've started working much closer with the hospitals so that we can get involved much, much earlier.
Do you think that there is an opportunity for greater medical tourism coming our way through the crowdfunding platforms that are being set up, and such as yours? And could you yourself, your platform, play a role in promoting India's medical tourism industry?
But honestly, it's not something that is our focus. Of course, our focus, like I said, is crowdfunding and raising funds for patients. And we've seen a huge uptick in patients that are coming from outside that need financial help as well. But it's not something that I've really thought about intensely, and maybe that's something we should think about and see how
From the
we can sort of.
Sorry, from the perspective of, you already mentioned the four reasons that you think why medical tourism could flourish in India, and you're bang
Yeah,
on target as far as your logic and points that you mentioned are concerned. They're absolutely correct. But the, the the thing is that from the perspective of crowdfunding, it's a new idea to
yeah,
many, and particularly you mentioned countries like Yemen, which is
yeah.
at in the middle of a huge war going on there. I wonder whether it has percolated down to many countries in Africa and in some parts of Middle East, that such a facility exists, and that
Correct.
people like you and organizations like you are there to help them. So that's a great initiative that you're taking to, and I think that's enough to promote what is being done for them. Another issue that really comes to mind is from the perspective of your own industry, that is the film industry. It has been always on the forefront from days immemorial. Right? I can remember from the Indochina War in the 1960s, and then film shows being held or people singing, coming to sing. Lata Mangeshkar, I remember singing Mere Watan Ke Logo. And so there is a history and tradition of your industry, your professional industry, coming to aid of a lot of national activities. Uh,
Right.
you find that same enthusiasm for some of your colleagues in helping people out. You yourself helped set up that 24 by 7 uh, uh, line that Sonu Sood has put up. And you
Yeah.
are a great supporter of that. Keto is a supporter of that. Could you share some of the details of, or some of the inside stories, may I say, of people from the professional life of yours coming to help in crowdfunding?
Oh, lots of them. I mean, there's so many people that there've been people that we've reached out to help, asking them to help, but there've been hundreds of people that have just called me randomly and said, "Look, I want to help." We've had everybody from Anushka Sharma, Ritik, Abhishek, uh, Varun, Alia, all of them have started campaigns on Keto to raise money for particular causes. And in that case, it's not just about raising money, it's also about raising awareness. Because if Alia Bhatt or a Ritik Roshan start a campaign on Keto and say, look, we're raising money for XYZ, you're not only contributing, and contributing to the money, but you're also exposed to the fact that Ritik Roshan is talking about something that is so important, and that tends to go viral and reaches out to a lot more people. So we've had lots of people that have started campaigns. We've had hundreds of people that have donated. And what I found amazing is that, like I was saying, is that so many times I've had people just call me up randomly and said that, there's this campaign going on in Keto, like there's an earthquake that's happened in Kashmir, in Nepal, or, there's floods in Chennai or Kashmir. Is there some way that I can help? Can I start a campaign? Can I do a campaign where every rupee that's donated, I match the donation? So lots and lots of campaigns like that.
So one of the fun of talking to a person like you, who's as erudite as you are and expressive, is that you all answer the question before it is put to you. So thank you. Thank you so much. From the perspective of the future of crowdfunding as a source of funding for the medical needs, do you think that it is here to stay? And what more needs to be modified to help it further along?
Well, I feel like we've just only begun, honestly. When you look out at the West, I mean, you have a platform like GoFundMe, which is raising, which is now apparently, the last I read, 1 in 2 Americans know about GoFundMe and have either contributed to it or used it. You have people in the States now saying things like, I'm shifting homes and I stay in this area. Can people from this area just help me out? Because I don't have money to afford the shifting. So that's how much it's become part of their culture, which is giving and, uh, helping somebody out. I think we've just only begun. For me, what's really important, I think, is that right now we are only in the urban centers. We're just about going to the smaller cities. But like I was saying earlier, we live in a world where there's so much medical advancement, but the question is, how many people can afford this advancement? And I feel like our job will really be done only when we've reached out to all the underprivileged people that need that money, so that nobody has to sell a property, or nobody has to sort of pawn their gold or take a loan which they can never repay. I feel like that's when we will start really making a difference. And I also feel what is really important is that we're of course talking about medical needs and helping people that have medical needs, but I don't see why we can't get involved in like R&D and infrastructure projects and medical breakthroughs, research and development that a company doesn't want to do or doesn't have the funds to do. I'd love to get involved in things like that as well. Uh, I had a chat with the government once, which is that if we can get involved in things like civic projects, which is uh, if the beach is dirty and all the residents of Juhu come together and buy 4 vans, and so that people can clean the beach every day. And you as a citizen then can go to the beach and see the difference in front of your eyes. I feel like that's something that can be really powerful as well. So those are things that I would love to see happen.
But you're already working on some of these projects, aren't you? Because you're working with Amazon, you're working with GoDaddy.com, and you
Right.
worked to help support many of the businesses during these COVID times. Am I right?
Right. Yes, we have. Yeah, yeah. A
So,
lot of
so
the small.
from the perspective of the COVID pandemic, how do you see this unfolding? The need for people's businesses being, lost, people's livelihood being lost. How can they possibly think of their medical needs when their own survival is at stake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had the tie-ups with Amazon and GoDaddy and stuff, and we've ended up helping a lot of small businesses. Uh, I recently last week spoke to this lady whose business was about to shut because she couldn't pay salaries, and she was able to raise, I think, about 3.5 lakhs, and that's enough to pay the salaries for the next 6 months, and so she can keep the business running. So yeah, I mean that's the things that can be helped are sort of never ending. I think it's only about creating awareness that something like this exists. Because like I was saying earlier, I feel like there's enough kindness and there's enough people that want to help and can afford to help. It's just about reaching out to these people and getting them connected with all the people that need the helping.
Kunal, during the course of our talk, you mentioned that people do not have the hesitancy anymore of seeking help, and that's something alien to probably my age group people who didn't even want to take a loan.
Right.
From perspective of the donors, has something changed? There are some, I'm quite sure, who must be donating in a big way who don't want to be in the limelight. I know of some people, and
Right.
probably
Right. Right.
do know many more. And there
Yep.
are, on the contrary, those who want to be in the limelight and only then will they donate. So, what is your impression? Because you've got now so much experience.
Well, we have a lot of famous people that come onto the platform and donate and put the money under anonymous. Uh, uh, we only know because we've got some details of that person. So anybody that goes to that campaign page will never see who's donated. Then you have people that donate, and then there's a story out in the papers the next day about how they've donated and helped this cause. But my belief is that either one of them is okay, because at the end of the day, what is happening is somebody is being served and somebody is being helped. So often people say that actors do this because they want some publicity and stuff. And I'm like, but if that publicity helps 100 children or 50 children or 10 children, what is the problem? At the end of the day, the work is being done, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if somebody's mining that for publicity or is choosing to be anonymous. How is that important? And I feel like we grew up in my household also. Uh, we were always told that ऐसे दो कि एक हाथ से दो कि दूसरे हाथ को पता ना चले. Uh, I feel like that is not the right way. Uh, you could do that if that's what you want, but I also feel like we live in a world where people are on social media and constantly talking about what they're wearing and what they're eating and where they're traveling. If somebody talks about what good they're doing, and if that inspires 10 other people, I think that's great. So I don't see why we should be so averse to putting out the fact that we're being good and we're doing good, because it inspires so many other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks, and
Correct.
I recall this from the cricket days that a lot of people used to say that ex-cricketer is very selfish. He scores a century, and so I always used to feel, well, as long as his century is adding to the total of the team, it's
Correct.
okay.
Correct.
So, what
Correct.
difference does it make if he's selfish about getting to his 100, as long as it is helping his team's cause? So, you put it very well indeed. Kunal, I have hardly 7 minutes left, and I will probably be crucified if I didn't ask you some questions about uh, your experience with working with some of these stars. You yourself are a star who worked with in films like Rang De Basanti, Gold, etc. The overall impression of the film industry has changed dramatically. From your times that you've entered the film line, already you must be sensing a change. What is, till date, what is your favorite role that you've done? And as a viewer, who is your favorite actor? Who's your favorite director? And which film did you like the best?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, Rang De Basanti was obviously a lot of fun to make. Not just what happened after that. I mean, it became a revolution more than a movie. That is something that's very rare and doesn't happen often. But just the process of making the film was a lot of fun, and I think just we all felt like we were doing something which was very interesting. We all felt like we had a very interesting story to tell. And Amir is somebody that is. We were all starting off. I was starting off, and he never ever makes you feel like he's a star. He wants to be a team player. That's the most important thing for him. And he's just an amazing co-star to be around. He's great fun to be around. He's inspiring. He's always helping you do your best. So it was amazing. The other film was a film called Love Shaft the Chicken Kurana, which I was actually involved in the writing process and putting the film together. So that's a film that'll always be very sort of close to my heart.
That's
So
like
many of them. There
that's
was
quite like Amritsar.
it is, yes. There was
So for
Aja
the
Nachle, which was with Madhuri Dixit, and who I was a big fan of, and I couldn't believe that I had a chance to work with her. So that was special. There's just been so many special films, really. Very difficult to choose one.
True, true. I think that's a fair point that you make. How can you choose from amongst your children? So I remember this is not my quote, and just from probably from some film star who was asked to choose which is the best film, and he said, "How can I choose between my children?" So from the perspective of coming back to uh, the topic that we were uh, talking about, COVID,
Yeah.
its impact, likely impact over a period of time is probably going to change the requirements of the society, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on demands on organizations such as you. So have you made any provisions specifically keeping in mind not just the businesses lost, but from a medical perspective, since you said 95% of your work now is that? Because I see as a doctor that COVID is going to be like a test match. It's not a T20 or a one day that's going to go away. And
Correct.
already we're talking about what is called a long COVID. That is, it's a syndrome that is going to affect people for a very long period of time. So you're in
Yeah.
for a very tough time. So is there
Yeah.
any special campaign you're thinking of?
I mean, we've actually raised we had raised about 150 crores specifically for COVID, which was multiple campaigns which were to provide ration to people, help medical workers, help migrants get back home. So 150 crores were raised specifically for COVID. In fact, we worked with the government of Maharashtra as well. We started a campaign called Milkar. And the idea behind Milkar was to get the government, NGOs, corporates, and individuals to work together. So we created a tech platform for them, which was a map of Bombay. And what we had found was that there were some areas in Bombay, say for instance Dharavi, where a lot of people were helping out, but then there were other areas which were not getting any sort of help. Dharavi was obviously in the limelight and spotlight, and lots of people were going there to help. But then there were smaller areas which were getting no help at all. And so we started this campaign, and basically what the campaign was doing was that the BMC was giving us updates about which area needs the most help on that particular day, which would get highlighted on the map. So when you came onto that platform, you would see which area needs the most help that day. And then when you press that, you would see which NGOs were working in that area. So as an individual, you could help those NGOs on that particular day. And then we had tied up with corporates to match every rupee that's been given. So corporates were giving 2 rupees for every rupee that was being given. So our idea really was that the only way we can overcome this is, like the app is Milkar, is to really sort of come together as a society, whether it's an individual or corporate, government, NGOs. How do we all sort of work together to make sure that we can overcome this? And I think that's the only thing that we can do in the future uh, I think it just requires, like you're saying, we're in for the long haul, and it requires all of us to come forward and sort of work together and contribute. And I think that's the only way we can sort of overcome this.
Well, Kunal, it's been absolutely a delight talking to you. I'd only seen you on screen. I can only say God bless you and your organization. May you flourish, and through you, may a lot of lives be saved. It's I should have added in the introduction itself, erudite, expressive, and with a baritone voice. So now your description, as far as I am concerned, is complete. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of Fiki. Uh, Let me once again say how privileged we feel having you with us. And may we wish you in your professional career and in your career as a social entrepreneur all the success that you so very much deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and a privilege as well. Thank you, and thank you so much for having me. All right.